everybody. Give it a minute to see if anyone logs on here this early, but I feel better anyway. I always have good sleep. Canada's broken. It's why we do what we do. Talked with a lot of the board last night for the CCP, Canadian Constitutionalist Party, and good talks. We're all kind of chatting, going, hey, I got bummed out. It's upsetting. I'm mad about that university, but reality is, for Canada, every academic institute or organization that's ever held anything, generally, I mean, there's been a couple I've been accepted and processed through, but that's being sponsored by another academic professor of law. Other than that, I get tossed every time. And only in Canada have I ever been kicked out of any forum or any academic institution online. And it's pathetic. I just, it's going to be that way. It's always been that way. That's the government. They're never wrong. Many lawyers will tell you this. There's lots of people before me who've battled in their own perspectives. John Carpey's one currently right now, and look how media treats him when he tries to go toe-to-toe. The government will never, ever acknowledge its gross violations. It will never, ever be wrong, and it will always propagate. It will always lie, and that means every politician who accepts that system and goes in that system as it is without change are all part of the problem, never going to be part of the solution. It's going to be ugly just like 2019. When I get into 2023, it will be just as ugly, if not worse, than it was in the 2019 election. I have to be ready for the fact that they're not going to let you debate no matter what. No matter how big you get, how much you put forward, they're going to do that. We have to know that. And we're going to have to, got a little slide there. We're going to have to be ready for finding new ways, new outlets. I don't know. Media's compromised, obviously, because they're paid hugely by taxpayers, which is our government, to make sure you all hear the version of truth that Canada wants you to hear of, or how that investigation's going to go. That's what they'll do. I guess the biggest thing to talk about now is what was all talked about yesterday at Native Child and Family Social Services in Toronto, head of the snake for Ontario, and the stories we heard, including former employees. There was one story of a woman who was an alcoholic. Now, anyone who's ever been involved in that or gone through the process of AA, she had to, by court order, get into AA, which she did. And for literally 5 years, weekend after weekend, weekday, or come into her program and touch base and, yep, I'm in AA, I'm still sober, checking in for years, trying to get her child back. And she's, I'm sober, I'm clear and sober. And on the bottom of the file on that computer, sorry everybody, on the bottom of that file, literally, I don't know, I'm in rough roads right now. See if that lasts. But literally on the bottom of the computer, she's got get a due date for the end of her program. Well, alcoholism and ADAC is lifetime. Lifetime. When you're ruled an alcoholic, there is no term to completion for AA. Once you enter that program, it's the rest of your life. 12 steps, guess what? You're in that for the rest of your life. Or you're not a reformed alcoholic, generally speaking. I repeat, every single alcoholic will tell you this. Some people don't need that to quit, but those who go into the program and truly accept it, it's the rest of your life. This goes for gambling, drugs. There's all kinds of the 12-step version of programs. And they wanted a due date, and they wouldn't give her child back, even though years of being clean. Now, for the Canadian taxpayer, as bad as that was for that First Nations mother, 5 years, week after week, she went in there. They never once told her that she had to have a completion date, because again, there isn't one. And they were making her do that week after week. The cost to the Canadian taxpayers was over $1.5 million. That was the cost of that file. Never mind how much that child went through in institutions and all kinds of terrible things that happened to that child. And we all looked at that. Now, that organization of Natives, First Nations peoples, going into it with Toronto's Native Family and Child Services yesterday, was the fact they want all the government files that the government's been keeping since the transfer in the 90s. They've created new files. There's a whole Native program that's now administered absolutely by the government. It's not administered by First Nations. So First Nations women who are in poverty reach out to that. They create these files. There's social workers, they talk to them. They create these files, and then they take away their children. They go out to the reserve, they snatch them with RCMP, just like they do with residential schools. The cost to the Canadian taxpayer, just for that Toronto office, is in the tens and tens of millions of dollars a year. And there's 200 of these across Ontario. What's the cost of that program of snatching kids? What is it? $1 billion just for the province of Ontario? I mean, I'm going to look into it, and I'm going to find out salaries. These people research the salaries. It's like WCB back in Alberta, 200 and some grand a year salaries. These people are making more than the mayor of Toronto. It's insane. It's totally insane. And the natives of Ontario, the First Nations of Ontario, Métis, they're right. They're right in what they're talking about. And it's insane. Why wouldn't you let a program like that be administered by the First Nations themselves? Why is it a different culture, society, trying to overrule another set of peoples, raise people's children, when their communities, their system, their culture can do that themselves? Makes sense to me. Why force your will? Just like residential schools, why force it? Because the reality is none of those children are coming out other than generally criminals. That's what it leads to 99 times out of 100. So it's an epic failure, an epic, huge waste of tax dollar failure. So why continue to force your will unless your only aim is to continue the genocide and to continue the residential school system and call it something else? That's reality, everybody. That's my video today. I'm sorry I got bummed out yesterday. I have to get used to the fact that Canada is Canada. They are grossly full of propaganda, paid media, and they will suppress any truth or any version of truth forever and always. That's my video. I'm not going to quit. I got frustrated. It was good to talk to the party board. It's been a while. And, everyone said, hey, chin up. It's always been this way. You've been kicked out of all the Canadian stuff. And a lot of them have got to sit through a lot of the world academic stuff. which I never get kicked out of. So what does that tell you? It's always back on Canada. It's always Canada is the problem. And they're going to try and dumb down the mass population. They try to ridicule. They try to assassinate character. That's their go-to. That's what they do. They can never face the horrors that is what is Canada. And still Canada today. They rape, pillage, and plunder the taxpayer, and they perpetuate the destruction of the First Nations people because they want a system where you all fall in line and everyone's a slave to the government bureaucracy, the elite that's openly invited to this country to do whatever they want to each and every one of you. They will raise the cost of living, currency will go out of control, and it's sliding. The cost of living sliding, housing's through the roof. Many provinces, there is absolutely no hope for the next generation. So the Canadian government goes, solution, we'll import as many people from all over the world and we'll build subsidized housing so that everyone lives filthily poor. And then crime goes up and you need more and more government. That's what it is. It's sick. It's disgusting. It's wrong. We're not going to be building out in Canada anymore. It's all building up, which means the day of living in a house is going to be coming to an end. Likely by the time I'm an old man, I'll be seeing it. Multi-family, single-unit dwellings. That's what it's going to be. It's sick. It's wrong. In a country as vast that should be settled, there's no reason why the amount of resources right here in Canada isn't enough for such a small population. But they're going to force it on you by keeping 4/5 of the country from you and building straight up in the limited, very limited amount of land available to Canadian citizens. It's sick. It's wrong. It's twice as bad as communist China. That is an absolute truth. Thanks, everybody. This thing ain't going to stay today. Have a great day. Bye now.